name is C. Megan Michael. I am a seer, a seeker, a visionary, and a medium. Every Sunday, I present to you spiritual thought leaders from around our world and beyond. Today it is my amazing privilege and honor to have as my guest once again the incredible author and channel David Strickel, who will also be channeling the stream. Please join me in welcoming the incredible David Strickel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am so excited to have you back as my guest again, David. It's always a pleasure to see you and to work with you, and it's always a pleasure to connect with the stream. I want to go start sharing it out, but I would love it if you are drawn to just remind everybody, in case some of my audience are not familiar with you, which would be shocking, but it's possible, about who you are and the stream, and then I know later on you'll channel and they can ask their own questions if that's okay.
Sure.
If that's okay with you, of course.
Certainly, of course. Okay. I'm always up for whatever, Again, my name is David Strickel. I channel a stream of consciousness that I call the Stream of David. It's very commonly known as the Stream of David. We also just call it the stream. And the stream comprises the core of source energy. It's always been my intention to go right to the core of source. And source is part of all of us, and we are all part of source. So my intention is to dive right into the most powerful, most positive message there is. And sometimes the most positive message there is not easy to understand by us humans, including myself, but they always kind of come around to really explaining it. And I have found, and people that are really into the stream have found, that it all sort of lines up and makes sense if you sort of piece their teachings together, because it really does. It brings you to a place of understanding why negative exists, why we're in a pandemic right now, and why we're in little quotes pandemic, and why all of these things right now are bubbling to the surface in the form of conspiracy theories and things like that, and all of this uprising that we're seeing during this time, what it's all about. So that is what the message is all about. Little did we know leading up to this year that their message has been about that all along, and sort of preparing us vibrationally for this awakening, everyone that they're connecting with. And of course, the stream flows through lots and lots and lots of different teachers. What you're receiving from me is David's version of Source. And David's version of Source, my intention with it is to add as little filtration as possible. So you're not going to hear a lot of things that are necessarily compatible with any human creation. That means it's not going to necessarily line up with what you've been taught spiritually, religiously, or even through science, because all of those things are human constructs that are really created by us around universal law, trying to understand why we're here, what our purpose is, and why things happen the way that they do. For me, nothing has ever made more sense than what the stream teaches, and that's why I love sharing it with the world. I kept it to myself for many, many years, but I began sharing it publicly just in 2017. I was writing it and speaking it for a few years in practice before that, but I launched the Stream of David podcast in 2017, and of course, the message has just expanded from there.
Wow. It's incredible. And so it is my understanding, because I know for myself that and I know we've spoken about it before, that I do follow and have been for years the teachings of Abraham, and that and I've heard you talk about and mention, even just yesterday you were live, that you started because someone had mentioned Abraham to you. Is that?
Yeah, for years, I knew, by the time I was a teenager, I understood that I had what I would call a knowing that a lot of people didn't have. When I was a child, I thought everybody was like this. And I was a weird child. I was a loner, and I had very disconnected parents and things like that. So I was really left to my own devices, which is a major blessing in my life, because I allowed this to develop because of that. I wasn't told, go, read your Bible. You've got to go do this. You've got to believe that way. I was kind of just left alone. So that ended up being a really good thing for me. And by the time I was a teenager, I had this understanding. In fact, I always talk about, I think I talked about this yesterday, in 1982, I was 14 years old, explaining what we call the law of attraction to my older brother. I didn't know what it was called at that point. I don't even know if we really used that term. That wasn't really mainstream back in 1982. But explained to him the process of creation in great detail. And I used that in my life. Unfortunately, I misused it. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because it ended up bringing me to the place where I am now. But I used it really to create material wealth, material things. And that was my version of happiness, because when you grow up as a poor child, you see people around you going to Disney World and going to summer camp and going water skiing in the summertime and doing all this fun stuff that I could never do. Never. So to me, having money to do those things amounted to happiness. So I spent until the age 40 really focusing on using what I knew to create money and things. And then I arrived at age 40 and I lived in $1 million house and I had a Mercedes and a Porsche and all the stuff you're supposed to have to be happy. And I wasn't happy. So I spent the next probably 7 years really working on changing all of these things. But in that process, I used to go see psychics. And there was a psychic in Casadega, Florida in my mid-30s. I went to see her. Her name is Hazel Burley. She's still around last I checked. She's probably into her 90s by now. But she's a lovely lady. And Casadega is a very cool little place. If you've never heard of it, look it up. And she told
Not
me
far
that
from where I live either.
yeah. Have you been to Casadega?
I've not been there yet. No.
You got to go because I went and I'd had a recurring dream about this place throughout my entire life until I actually went there and rounded this corner and saw this picture that was my dream. And it was this church by a pond that I'd been dreaming about for years. I had no clue what it was about. And when I went to meet Hazel that day, I saw the church by the pond for the first time, and it all came into focus why I've been dreaming about this place. It's magical, and it's tiny, and nobody knows about it. It's not like Sedona. There's nothing wrong with Sedona, but everybody knows what Sedona is all about.
Sure, yeah.
Casadega is just this little hidden gem. It's great. I'm going to keep talking about it. It's not going to be anymore, though. So anyway, so she told me that I was a channel. I didn't really know what the hell that meant. She pulled out this big plastic box set of cassette tapes, and this was, not that long ago. And it was all the Abraham teachings. And I remember it was purple, and it said the teachings of Abraham. And she said, you need to pay attention to this because this is what you are and what you do. It's very similar. I don't remember her exact words. And I just remember thinking, Abraham, Old Testament, biblical. And I grew up with that. Not so much. I think I'm not going to go anywhere near that. I don't want to be one of those weird, spiritual people. But I knew that there was something going on with me. So anyway, I ignored it for years and years and years until after the book The Secret came out, right after the book The Secret came out. And I really said, my invention from 1982, the thing I thought I created, everybody gets it now. It's The Secret. It's called Law of Attraction. This is so cool. I never watched the Oprah Winfrey show. And then one day I was home magically watching Oprah Winfrey, and she had all the people that wrote The Secret on. So that was kind of a magical experience. So I was teaching Law of Attraction in my corporate job. And I'd been weaving it in for years, not knowing what it was called. And this person that was in one of my training seminars came up to me in Seattle, Washington. I just moved to Seattle from Florida. I lived in Orlando prior to that. And she had walked up to me and said, you realize you're teaching Law of Attraction, right? And I said, I think I know that that's what it's called, but I can't really call it that in a corporate setting. She said, well, have you ever heard of Abraham? And I remembered Hazel. And I'm like, yeah. She said, well, you really need to pay attention to Abraham. So she went and actually had at her desk, I'm not making any of this up, she had at her desk a box set of CDs. So we at least moved into the 90s at this point. This was around 2007, 2008. And she had CDs, and she said, you need to listen to this. Well, just so happens I was living in Seattle at the time, and I was driving my convertible that I moved up from Florida. And we had bought a house at the top of a mountain, beautiful view. I could see Seattle, Bellevue, all this great stuff. But every time it snowed, my car would get stuck at the bottom of the mountain. I couldn't get home. So I was wanting a black Range Rover. Very specifically, I wanted to buy a black Range Rover at this time. So I'm driving home with these CDs in my passenger seat, and I'm going to turn into my neighborhood. And right in front of me, there is a black Range Rover turning into my neighborhood. And the personalized license plate said Abraham.
Again, I got
so I took that as a very clear sign that I needed to pay attention to Abraham. So I went home and I listened, and it was the first set of teachings from Abraham from 1988. It was probably the same thing that Hazel was trying to turn me on to years prior, and I just didn't pay attention to. And it sounded like music to my ears. But since that time, I did spend a lot of time listening to Abraham. I understood the message very, very well. I thought it was beautiful and uplifting. I still do. I think it helps millions of people and always will. It will always be a beautiful message. But for me, there was something that was missing. There was a little piece of the puzzle that didn't really fit for me. I needed to do some more inner work that I was being guided to do by them, that I was being guided to do by my inner knowing. So I sort of walked away from all of that and really paid attention to my inner knowing. And I went into healing things from my past. I went into a deep healing process of appreciation of my father leaving when I was 6, and my mother being the person that she was, who told me to kill myself when I was a teenager and didn't speak to me for the last 20 years of her life and all that fun stuff. So I had to heal all that stuff because it's hard to raise your vibration and keep your vibration up and live the law of attraction when your vibration's being tugged down all the time by triggers, by your emotional triggers from things in your past. So I decided that I really wanted to teach myself from my own inner knowing. And that's when I started writing it. And eventually I started speaking it. I realized I've got the same thing coming to me. It's my version of, it doesn't mean that Abraham is wrong and I am right or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that at all. But it was my version of. And when I got to the point where I could really converse with the stream, I said, why am I being called to share this with the world when I'm in this high paying corporate job? I'm very well respected for what I do, living in this mansion, I have all this great stuff. Why am I really being called to share this with the world in such a way that's really going to disrupt all of that? Because you can't be a Fortune 500 corporate executive and a channel. It doesn't work very well. The board members have a problem with things like that. So I was really called to do so. And I was told very, very clearly that the Abraham message is perfection and it is the Abraham message, and it's done its job on planet Earth and will continue to do so. It will continue to expand. It will be what it is, and it's serving those that are vibrationally aligned with it. You are going to share our message, and our message is filtered through you, and it's going to be different. It's going to have a different vibration to it. It's rooted in universal law, just like Abraham and all the other teachers that you see out there, but it's going to have its own vibration, and it's going to attract its own audience, and you're going to help people heal. Okay, fine. So I did that, and it took me a few years to teach myself how to speak it. I used to hide in my car in the parking garage of my building in San Francisco and speak into my iPhone. It was kind of funny. Finally, I did. I really just relaxed into it and allowed it to be. And when I did, all this great information started coming out. I turned that into my first book. I'll go ahead and take this opportunity to plug my book. Extreme Eternalism for a Better Life. So that became my first book. And then I started a podcast. And the reason I started a podcast was because I was told that if I wanted to sell books, I had to have a podcast. I started a podcast. Well, the podcast ended up becoming something cool that I still do to this day. The Stream of David podcast, we dove in. It was me in my living room by myself, just channeling into a microphone. However long the podcast lasted is how long it lasted. There was no structure to it. There was no intro, outro, commercials or anything. And I just tackled the toughest subjects there were. We went into transgender people, into pedophilia, just all kinds of crazy stuff that I wanted to get this information
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because I'm a huge fan of Abraham, and I'm very into the teachings. There are some things that they don't directly tackle. They do. They skirt around it, but my vibration always winds up really high. And so I kind of got to the point where I'm like, okay. Right? Yeah, totally, 100%. But I love what you're saying, because you're saying that you talk about, or you in the stream talks about anything. So I'm
about anything. There's nothing off limits to the stream. They will dive right into it. I sort of made a pact with them, if you will, that even if their message were to get me killed, I'm okay putting it out there. I'm glad I live in a place where I'm not going to necessarily be killed for that, hopefully, but I'm not looking to attract that into my life. But I am not afraid to share anything that they want to share. And I am a guest every week on another podcast called LOA Today. And they are big Abraham fans, big Abraham fans. And there are questions that the stream will answer that they've never heard answers from Abraham. So that is an element that's there. He calls it Abraham on steroids. I don't want it to be a copy of Abraham, though. I want everybody to be really clear about that. If people say you like Abraham, you'll love the stream. Not necessarily. The stream is a little more raw. And you've got to find what works for you and the vibe that works for you. And they say, and I agree, that if it resonates with you, you're in the right place. And if it turns you off, then move on, because it's not for you. It's not for everybody. And that's one thing I've learned in all this, Megan, is that there's no one size fits all in this world. There are people that are served from religions. There are people that are served by their atheism. There are certainly people that are served by spirituality and all of these, other things, science. There is service in all of those things in balance. When you're balancing ego and soul consciousness, you really can't go wrong. And that's what our teachings are all about.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. And I've shared it to a bunch of groups, including Taya. You have, if you want to,
thank you.
I guess we could talk about it later. Oh, you're welcome. You're very welcome. I'm just so excited that you're here. And I love everything that you're talking about. And I wanted to share that, like, when I first started listening to the teachings of Abraham, I resonated with some, but not all. It took a while for me to just let stuff wash over me. And then it's the same thing with crying. It's the same. By the time I started listening to the stream, I was pretty much ready. I was ready for the stream. Honestly, I was ready. But I really feel like saying this to everyone, because if something doesn't resonate, like David said, like I always say, take what resonates, leave the rest behind. Same concept here. But I really want you to know that if you let stuff wash over you, it sometimes it will just become part of who you are. And then, you know what I mean? If you try to focus, this is my own experience, guys. If you try to focus too hard and wrap itself around a concept that it's never heard before, that, sometimes it'll just get you stuck there. Well, what's your experience with that, David? Have you ever had an experience with that?
The
Or you've
thing
always
is we're
got everything?
now we're absorbing all sorts of teachings all the time from all over the place, and at our best, we are, as you call yourself, a seeker, right? We are seeking growth, we are seeking expansion, we are seeking new information, we're opening our mind to different types of thoughts, and I think in our highest vibration, we are able to absorb all of it. And the low vibrational stuff doesn't even really meet us up there, and if it does, it kind of, just like you said, just kind of flows right through and moves on. But a lot of it will be absorbed, and we will really come to comprehend it when we're ready to comprehend it. And there's no right path or right amount of time. This idea of awakening. It's funny. I'm on TikTok now. I love TikTok. I hope it doesn't necessarily go away, because I know that that's a threat at the moment. TikTok's cool. I'm connecting with a whole different generation of audience on TikTok.
I haven't checked
It's
it
the
out
Wild
yet.
West
Okay.
of social media once again. It's just all kinds of stuff. And it's
Okay,
also,
cool.
it's become very spiritual. There's a hashtag called Witch Talk. That is all the spiritual stuff on TikTok. And there's a lot of spiritual stuff on TikTok. There's a lot of everything on TikTok. But I'm just getting a lot of information from a lot of people, a lot of feedback from a lot of people, because it's highly interactive, because it's really easy to follow and unfollow people. And I jumped to like 16,000 followers in less than a month on there. And we get into these messages about spirituality. And sometimes people will come in and say, well, I'm more awakened than you because blah, 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 blah. And it's really funny, because awakening, in my opinion, is something that a process that we are in as long as we're physical. We're sort of going back to that non-physical version of us again at our best, when we're keeping ourselves in high vibration with an open mind and we're absorbing. That is the process of awakening. I've been in this process now since 2010. I had a Kundalini energetic awakening in 2010, and that's when all this stuff really started expanding. I still learn new things. I still let my vibration drop sometimes, because polarity is tugging at it all the time. I still have problems. I still have obstacles to overcome. And every time I have an obstacle that I place in my path, and we place them all, it's now a growth opportunity. And it's so clear. And the great thing about this practice that we've created around the Stream's teachings is that you get clarity on your lower vibrational moments so quickly that you can dip down in lower vibration, manifest a problem, go right back up in vibration, solve the problem, and understand why you created it in the first place.
I do that.
It's a magical way to live life, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big part of what we teach in Taya. So and Taya, if you, I guess I haven't said that yet, Taya is the set of teachings that I've created from my human perspective around the Stream's teachings. And I have a Taya program and all that kind of stuff. You can find out about that after the show. But Taya stands for Trust Your Abundance. And it's whatever your version of abundance is. It's not just necessarily just about money and things. In fact, I'll be the first to talk you out of thinking that just getting a new car or a new house or a fancy handbag, and I don't think your audience is about that. But a lot of people do think that. I had somebody that wanted to join my boot camp one time, and we started talking about the price of boot camp. She says, well, I could buy a new handbag for that. I thought, okay. You can have a spiritual awakening experience with all the support and tools to do that and learn to live in a life of abundance, or you can go have a new handbag. So you choose. Big red flag of, you're not ready for this. You're not ready for this. So,
I understand.
Yeah, so Taya is a really cool thing because it has helped people transform their lives. And I've taught it to people now all over the world because of the podcast. And we have stories of miraculous healing, coming back from terminal illness, definitely manifesting money and jobs and things. And we've even had a homeless single mother now manifest her own home and her own new car. And
I saw that. I saw the testimony for that.
Right? She's growing in her. I love that. That's why I do what I do, because people come in and they learn to step into their abundance. But abundance is not just stuff. Even people that come in and manifest things and money, when they graduate, every single testimonial is the same. I learned to love myself. I learned to connect with the higher version of me. I learned to see humanity from the highest perspective. Because when you do those things, all of a sudden, life and death and pandemics and all of the things that are out there to scare us right now are not scary at all. And in learning that, I see people in the Taya community thriving. They're not afraid right now. They're not worried. They're not down, oh, it's so terrible and the economy's bad and everybody's sick and somebody's grandmother died. And, I understand all that stuff is real, life and death is real, but you view it from a higher perspective as a multidimensional higher being, because we all are. And when you do that, suddenly you're like, wow, life is beautiful and it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm going to die sometime, and so is everybody else. And I'm going to get sick every once in a while. And if it doesn't kill me, it's going to make me stronger. And if I go broke, I'll get money again. It's okay. The universe will always pamper me. That's a beautiful way to live life.
Yes.
You just know, right? You just know. You just know you're going to be okay. And,
It's that knowing the well-being's always flowing to you. It's that knowing and then accepting that everything's always working out for you, that everything is always going to be okay. And if something is a challenge, then you just, like you said, you look at it and you're like, all right, so and I can literally do it too. This just happened. Okay, does it feel good? No. But do I realize there's a higher message? Yes. And then I just open up to the higher message. And I usually get it really fast.
Yeah, no, it's, when you get if you work on raising your vibration through meditation and appreciation and things of that nature on a regular basis, your stream speeds up. And when your stream speeds up, you manifest very quickly, positively and negatively, because there's really no negative, because every time you place an obstacle, it's actually there to serve your expansion. So if you look at it from that perspective, there's no such thing as negative.
That's true.
Yeah. And the biggest thing, though, that to get across in all of this, because I hear people arguing for their limitations, and then I hear people arguing for the limitations of others all the time. Well, what about the child that's been abused? And what about the person that has cancer? And what about the person that's suffering from COVID-19? That is our judging their experience from our perspective, not understanding what that soul's intention is here on planet Earth to experience. And to me, the more we push against something, the more energy we give to the negative aspects of it, instead of focusing on how many people are healing. How many people are, how much abuse now is being brought to the surface to address in a positive way. Those things, that positive, let's take our focus off of the demonization of the transgressor, because that just creates more transgressors. And let's place our focus over here on the solution of how do we actually solve that problem? Because just hating on it doesn't do a damn thing. That hating on it is sort of a step one. Let's get angry about it. Let's all get upset that we've seen this happen yet again. Let's get mad. That's fine. But it's not going to get solved until we move over here in higher vibration where all the tools are. And that's true for our lives as well.
Say the last, I'm sorry, I was writing a note down so I could ask you a question. Say the last sentence again, please.
I already forgot it.
Are you channeling?
I'm kind of halfway channeling a lot of times now. But I'm not totally in stream mode.
Was that stream or was that David? I don't know. I feel a little.
I find when I'm on people that are a lot of fun and high energy, the stream just starts flowing right through me, which is really cool. Yeah, but they get a lot more profound than I do. I'm kind of silly sometimes, but anyway, I love that we get to that place where that we're all able to get there, to where we're not judging the experience of other people and not allowing the experiences of others to lower our vibe. Because if our vibe is low, we don't have anything to offer them anyway. If we want to help, we need to raise our vibration and see their potential for healing, not their victimhood.
I love what you're saying, because that's come across my desk, so to speak, so many times. Well, what about, how could you be high vibration? I mean, I don't directly get asked this most of the time now, but people are feeling it, and I hear and I see it in the comments and stuff like, well, what about all those people that are sick? And what about this country over there? And what about it? You want me to focus there with you and feel bad? Like you said, this is their experience. It's when you look at it from the broader perspective, this is their experience. They chose to have it. And it's a growth experience for them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
For their soul. Well, the stream had said, I should probably read the stream and let them tell you all this themselves, but they do say that the souls that project in the path of a lot of contrast, negative, souls that project into being even stillborn or even aborted, or the souls that project into being a terminally ill child or placed somewhere where there's genocide going on, these types of atrocities that we see. And of course we judge them as things that we don't want or want to see for anyone. But that soul is actually seeking that more complex path because of the opportunity for expansion that is offered in it, whether it's the overcoming or the experiencing. It's something that a lot of us can't understand. But when we think that, somebody that's born into privilege is blessed, and someone that's born into poverty is cursed, it's opposite. It's opposite. The one that's born into poverty is saying, hey, I'm going to see if I can get born into poverty. This is me saying this from a human perspective. And I'm going to see if I can align with that, be born into a poverty-stricken situation, and then move myself out of it. And if I move myself out of it, think of the expansion that I'm going to create for my soul, my eternal being, for my human being, and think of how inspiring I'm going to be for other human beings. How high vibration is all that? Talk about high vibration mastery, right? That's really high vibration stuff. If you are looking at it from that high eternal perspective of I live endless lifetimes, coming and dying is no big deal from that perspective. It's not.
It's
It's
so
not.
true.
That's why we see these young children that are born with terminal cancer, and they live their entire life perhaps in a hospital, and then they die at a young age, and everyone says the same thing. They were so enlightened. They were so sweet. They were so genuine. They were so at peace. Why was that? That's why you have a very advanced soul here on earth having that experience that's very hard for us to understand from our human perspective, because we're taught that illness is bad and pain is bad and suffering is bad and we have to avoid it at all costs. And look at how much living we avoid at the avoidance of pain and suffering.
And fear, because we don't want to have fear, so we stay in this. So not we, because I'm not going to accept that as myself, but that people stay in this little bubble. And this, I used to be there too, but I used to actually create a bunch of drama for myself and contrast, until I stopped worrying about everything and just live. It's just, see, you're right though, because in order to be super high vibrational, at least I'm from my perspective, because I've experienced a lot of contrast, and I know that I chose it. I know that I chose it. I attracted it. It was by choice. I overcame it, because here I am sitting here today, and and very frequently, not all the time, obviously, but most of the time, I'm with a higher perspective, and I can easily tune in and tune up if something happens. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I know instantaneously if I'm looking at something and it triggers me down, I was already in low vibration to begin with.
Yes, because it came into your life, because otherwise it wouldn't have even come into your experience.
Yeah, and it totally wouldn't trigger me, because if I'm in high vibration and I read something, I respond to it totally differently from a high vibrational perspective. Like, oh, that's interesting. Not, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Boom, triggered. Oh, I was already down to begin with. I know you want me to channel, and I can go over if you want me to. I'll leave that up to you, but we should probably bring the stream in because I see people are asking for it. So there's nothing off limits to ask the stream. I always tell everybody, just know that they are limited to my intellect and vocabulary. If you start talking about the planet Zorgon or something like that, you may or may not get a response from them. I can't guarantee that. I've got to understand what you're talking about, because I am getting a knowing from them and I am speaking it back to you. I do go into kind of a trance. I'm sort of in the background while this is going on. I'm not possessed. It's really hard to explain. But I am present, but I'm not so present. It's the best way to say that. And I remember bits and pieces afterward. I usually go back and watch these when I get time afterward to see what transpired.
Awesome.
My audience is cool, so I can't wait to bring them in.
All right, let's do it. I'm excited. I was going to say you're preaching to the choir, because my audience is already like, yeah, mediumship channels. Yeah, let's do it.
We are here.
Welcome back. It's such a pleasure to have you back on my show and to have the opportunity to present you to my beautiful audience, our co-creators, and to ask you major questions again. So thank you for being here.
We are happy to be here, and we feel the vibration of the questions that are being asked, and want everyone to know that we will answer all of your questions.
Beautiful. Thank you. The first question is by Kim Siegel, and she's saying, the stream, are they galactic? And if so, which group or groups?
We will start. This is a very good first question for an interaction with some who have perhaps not been in our audience before. The idea of all of your beings from other galaxies, even your angelic beings, those that you refer to as your guides, your ascended masters, all of these things are of the energetic realm, and they are absolutely energies that you are experiencing, because beyond physical there is consciousness, and there are endless versions of your universe, endless. And in these endless versions of your universe, they are all powered by the same consciousness. And you are part of that consciousness. We are that consciousness. And we are flowing through into all creation. But the labeling of is a human creation. the human-like beings, the beings from other galaxies, all of this is human filtration of consciousness of the energetic realm. And when David began exploring what he was receiving, he began tuning into to different things. And some of them felt good and some of them did not feel good to him. And in that exploration, he set an intention to go deep into what we refer to as the core of source. There are many humans that feel still unworthy of delving into this space where we reside. You are not unworthy, but the labeling of things other than source, because it is all source, is a label of human limitation. So when you ask where we come from and what galaxy we come from, we are from all.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I apologize. I was just turning down the volume because some people said they heard an echo, so I was figuring it must be on my end. Thank you very much for answering that question. There's so many questions. What do I want to ask you? Before I look into the questions, is there anything, Spirit, that I want to ask? Okay, yes. I do want to ask you this. Okay, so animals, okay, and animals are these amazing, incredible, conscious beings, and a lot of people want to help them and bring enlightenment to other people about the fact that they're conscious beings and that we perhaps maybe shouldn't eat them or hurt them or whatever it is. And I'd like to know your perspective and how we can, as humans, help to inspire I know we can't enlighten people, but to help inspire enlightenment in other people about this. I'll just give it that to you. Thank you.
Our perspective of all of it, first, we will start with our perspective of all things is a perspective of non-judgment. So your behavior on your planet and the custodial care of your planet is up to you. We are not judging it. The reason that we are not judging it is because you are in a physical environment of contrast. Polarity is impacting your vibration at all times. And this polarity impacts your vibration in such a way that you are going down into low vibration and creating from low vibrational territory the things that you consider negative, the things that you consider that you do not want. And at your best, you are allowing those things, those low vibration creations, to be the launch pad of your next high vibration creation. So when you encounter something that you discern is not your preference, and this is for you in your individual lives, and you as a collective consciousness of humanity, and you as a collective consciousness of planet Earth, and out from there, you can discern a preference toward improvement. But we want you to understand that your environment was created as an ecosystem, and as the most intelligent beings on your planet physically, you are here to discern your preference and do with that as you wish. Now, if that comes in the form of harming your animals or harming one another, we are not judging it, but we absolutely understand your preference for no harm or little harm. With that said, it's important that you understand that life only thrives from life. In other words, you are eating something with consciousness. You are consuming something with consciousness to stay alive in your physical body. Water has consciousness. Your plants have consciousness. Everything about your planet has consciousness, different vibrations of consciousness, certainly. But your animals and your plants and your water are the things that you have to consume to survive, and you're well aware of that. They all have consciousness. We are flowing through all. The reason that you place animals in this different category is because they are most like you. So from your ego perspective, you are identifying with these beings and again, judging their experience, saying that because they are more like you, you are wanting to preserve your own mortality and not harm your animals. You can absolutely discern that preference and lead yourselves on a path of consuming animals in such a way that is not as detrimental or distressful to them while they are alive. That is something that would inspire new creation. You can certainly choose not to consume animals, but understand when you choose not to consume animals, you are making that choice from an ego state, not from an eternal consciousness state. And there are many in spiritual realms, spiritual circles, that believe that consuming animals is wrong and lowers your vibration because the animal was slaughtered to provide the food. Yes, there is fear and a bit of pain in the time of slaughter, but your animals have retained a knowledge that humans in your intelligence have cut yourselves off from. They, even though their ego, their version of ego, is driving them to survive, to fight or flight from death, they innately understand their eternal nature like most humans do not. They understand that there is a food chain and they are part of it. Notice that no matter what you do as humanity to stop harming animals, they are still going to harm one another.
That's true.
You're not going to create a scenario where most of your animals suddenly become vegan.
That's true.
So if you are at peace with your choice to eat meat or not eat meat, we are not judging any of it, and we are not guiding you to judge yourselves. But we are certainly wanting to point out that these types of discernment are always rooted in ego. And when you are balancing your ego consciousness and your soul consciousness, you are operating at a very high frequency, a very high vibration, as you all like to say. And when you have those two things in balance, you are seeing your eternal nature. You are understanding what planet Earth is all about, that is a physical environment of contrast. And there are things that are here on this planet that you absolutely recognize as physical versions of source, that which we are. And these things are things that you want to partake in. And we guide you to partake in any and all of them without judgment of yourselves or others. But understand, in doing so, there is a tipping point that you reach where consuming an animal, because you are part of the food chain and you are naturally driven to consume an animal, is very different than necessarily setting up a factory farm situation where the animals are routinely abused up until the time of their slaughter. You can do better.
I was just going to ask you that.
So discerning a preference to do better, to clean up your environment. You're not going to kill your planet. Your planet will kill humanity before humanity kills the planet. You are already seeing some signs of that. Yet you can still do better. You can discern a preference not to put trash in your oceans or bury it or produce nearly as much as you do. You can certainly find new ways of producing energy. You already have. All of this is expansion. It is all evolution. It is all new technology that creates expansion for humanity, creates collective expansion for all souls that are involved in it, and more importantly, powers the expansion of the entire universe, including our energy. So continue to discern your preference toward and understand that taking the judgment and the fear out of the equation and setting your sights on solutions, that is your expansion. That is what you're here for.
Fantastic. Okay, so one more question along those lines. So I've heard a lot of people say, and honestly, I kind of believe it too, but I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, so everything is energy, but the animals that are tortured on the factory farms, that are not organic, free range, whatever. So when we consume those animals, are we consuming the drama and the trauma that they have suffered throughout their lives and maybe their death as well? Transition.
You are consuming things in your physical environment that are harmful to you in all directions. Your radio waves, your technology, the chemicals, all of these things that human has created. There's contrast on all topics. So humanity creates technology, advancement, especially around your food sources. And your bodies take longer to catch up to these advancement in food sources than your technology in creating the new food sources. This is why you've created so much cancer and other illness on your planet, because you've created technology in food that is advanced faster than your bodies can keep up. And this factory farming with this different vibration of meat product is an example of that. Your bodies could catch up to that vibration. You have the power, you all have the power to manage your own vibrations regardless of what you're absorbing. This is what we speak of all the time. Consuming an animal that was slaughtered in a torturous way is the same as consuming negative media, is the same as consuming chemicals, is the same as consuming pollution in your air and in your water and things of this nature. They are things that are tainted through your advancements, your perceived advancements in technology that you're not ready for yet. You can just as easily, with your vast creative abilities, turn your attention toward simply eliminating the torturous aspects and being more kind to the animal while it's alive, certainly keeping that animal in a higher vibration and still slaughtering it. The animal is going to be slaughtered before you're going to consume it. So there are ways that you can discern your preference toward treating it differently, but to single out animal torture and animal treatment to negate your consumption of that, that is exactly the same as suddenly saying that you're no longer going to drink water because it may have pollution in it, and you're no longer going to breathe the air because it may have pollution in it. Your environment is rife with pollution that you have created. Yet many of you thrive and live what you consider very long lifetimes. It's important to understand that your environment of contrast is intended to wear your physical apparatus out. You came to be born and sort of reach a peak of physical ability and then decline and return to your completed state. That was your intention when you came. This is not intended for you to exist here on a very long-term basis. And especially we are speaking in terms of earthly linear time. When you are away from planet Earth and not in physical, you are not existing in this type of time. But when you are here, you are having this experience that you are perceiving as physical, and you are perceiving a timeline, and you are all judging how long you're supposed to live. There is no right or wrong amount of years. And the things that you consume in your environment that you've created is going to wear your body out one way or another. And you can consume anything of lower vibration and still raise your vibration. You're going to feel the effects whenever you consume something of low vibration. Your body is going, if you are attuned to your body is going to tell you almost instantaneously that you've done that. And that will be your guidance to move away from things. But understand that if you are negatively judging the consuming of animals because your ego is telling you that this thing is more like you and you should not be consuming it, that is an ego-based judgment. Regardless of how it met its demise, we will add.
I'm muting myself so that maybe there won't be, that was a good suggestion from one of our viewers. If I mute myself while you're speaking, then there won't be feedback. So I've done that. So that's fantastic. Okay, so I see your questions, everybody, and keep them general as well, please, general questions. But I've got some more questions that Spirit's putting on my soul to ask you. So you mentioned life and how long we live, and that we're basically born to die at some point, and that's okay. But did we used to live longer as humans, like it says in the Bible, like hundreds of years? Did humans ever live that long? Was that true?
Remember that you are also looking at a set of writings written over a very long period of time, translated by many different human beings, referring to time in different ways. And in time, again, is a perception. So the amount of time that your physical body exists on planet Earth has fluctuated throughout your existence. And certainly anything is possible. The humans that believe they want to stay in physical forever, that is possible. The challenge that you run into is by design, you are all projecting into your physical experience up to speed with the time that you are projecting in. So every generation has a different vibration. Notice this. This is why a child and its parent will never see eye to eye on everything. And certainly a child and its grandparent are not going to have the same life experience and see eye to eye. You are vastly different from generation to generation because, again, you're born up to speed with the time that you enter. This is why children born today are going to be so much more up to speed with technology than someone that is over 40 or 50 years of age at this time. Always, always. You see examples of this all around you. They are born up to speed with now. And as you move through this linear time, this perception of linear time, you begin to disconnect from your current world. Those of you that have lived 40, 50, 60, 70 plus years feel that. Popular culture is beyond you. You are not understanding it. You hearken back to the time that you are at your peak physically. And that is by design, because you are designed to come and have an experience and then have the world speed up around you and have you disconnect from it naturally to facilitate your innate desire to return to your completed state. And that innate desire will ultimately manifest some sort of an exit strategy for you. whether that is sickness or accident or something that's very sudden, it does not matter. You all have an exit strategy when you begin to be disconnected for one reason or another from your world.
Do we have one exit strategy, or do we have several that we choose from
There
throughout
are
the course
endless
of
exit
incarnation?
strategies, and you manifest these things vibrationally. You understand that the things that you fear, you attract, and the things that you focus upon in love, you also attract. And you have these different points of focus based on where your vibration is. And polarity is tugging at your vibration all the time. So you have this sort of flow of vibration, if you will. And yes, you can do things, as this group is well aware, to keep your vibration higher more of the time. And when you do, you are seeing the world and your life from a higher perspective, and you are receiving more of what you would call abundance and less of what you would call obstacles. But polarity inevitably is going to take you down a little bit. And when polarity takes you down, you're going to go down and you're going to create negative. This is the cyclical flow of being physical. And that cyclical flow of being physical is going to take you down into low vibration. And when you're down there, you are going to read about an illness, or you are going to do something that is going to have you focus on your own demise in a negative way. And when you do that, you are sort of laying another the weight, if you will, on that side of the equation, that you are going to die at some point of something. And when you're fearing it and you allow that fear to gain momentum, that becomes a dominant vibration within you, and you manifest an event that can facilitate that.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just trying to process because I have this belief that we come in with a blueprint of our lives, even though I know we have free will, but I feel like we have a blueprint. So is that completely wrong? Is that like a false belief that I'm carrying, that we have some idea of when we're exiting?
The intention that you come in with, and this is often misunderstood, because
Okay.
you all want purpose. And you have a soul purpose. And yes, your soul purpose is to come to planet Earth and find your paths to freedom and joy, to keep it quite simple. And finding your paths to freedom and joy is going to be rife with contrast. That there is no human being that is born and simply finds an easy path to freedom and joy. And if they do that with great ease at a very young age, watch how much they screw it up. Inevitably, the vibration is going to drop. Negative things are going to come in, because there is no soul that intends to come here and live a steady life of quiet perfection. There's nothing offered in that. Think about this. You exist that way in your eternal completed state. You are pure positive energy. You are without contrast. There is polarity present, but it's not impacting you the way that it does in physical. So you are flowing in pure positive energy and bliss. You're omnipresent. You're omniscient. You're asking about other galaxies. You are all other galaxies in that state. So there you are. Yet there's no expansion offered in that. It's a state of being. It's consciousness. So you desire nothing more than to come and perceive a physical experience, understanding full well from that higher perspective that you are projecting into a physical environment, and all physical environments are impacted by polarity. Therefore, all physical environments have contrast. There is no dystopian physical environment, because there is no physical environment that is held in negative vibration all the time. You all understand that no matter what you do, polarity dips you down every once in a while. You dip into lower vibration. You feel bad for no particular reason. You start having a set of unwanted things occur in your path. If you're really paying attention, you can pay attention very early on to the very first bump in the wall of the morning, or the very first spill of your coffee, understanding that you are in a bit of low vibration to have things of that nature happening. And if you start paying attention to these little bitty things and taking that moment to simply quiet your mind for a second and breathe and appreciate and raise your vibration, you've instantaneously changed the trajectory of your day. And when you start living this way day by day by day by day, suddenly you've changed the path of your entire life. You all hold the power to do this. So the idea of coming in and having this preset destination is inaccurate, in that there is no preset path for you. You came in for the Wild West of humanity. You came in to experience whatever could be. You absolutely, though, chose your point of entry. So vibrationally, you chose your parents. You chose your nationality, you chose your race, you chose the religion, you chose the circumstances that you were projecting into. And every set of circumstances holds contrast. We understand that for some, you look at one that is born into a favored race and a favored nation and a favored financial situation and believe that they chose an easy path, and perhaps they did from a soul consciousness perspective. But that soul consciousness understood that there was going to be the potential and the availability for that very easy path to get off path. And you see examples of that in your society. And sometimes you do not. And very often, notice that the beings, and we are not asking you to judge as much as we're asking you to discern, that you will see beings that are born into privilege, that do not experience a lot of contrast. Notice the lack of depth in that human being. They haven't had to explore things such as this, and they haven't gone to these depths because they haven't had the contrast that has led them there. Now, for those of you that are absorbing teaching such as this and raising your vibrations and working through an awakening process, what would you choose? Would you choose that quiet, peaceful, easy existence over an awakening experience? We would venture to say no.
No. I wouldn't want to relive everything I've relived, but I don't have to because I already lived it. But I wouldn't change anything either.
Because it's brought you to where you are. Exactly. And now that you lived it, you understand that even though there were things that were painful in the moment, that you survived that, and those painful things in the moment created the tension that catapulted you to where you are. How magical an experience that is. That was your soul's desire. And here you are living it. So from that perspective, you are living your soul path, but you laid out the path. You got to create that. That is why we do not lay out a path for you. That is why we are not going to come here and say, this is what you all need to be doing. And this is why we're not going to predict your future for you, because endless versions of that exist for you. We would guide all of you to not let anyone predict your future for you. You predict your future. You create your future. And expand in the creation of your future. And the very best future for you that you're going to create is when you create from a place of appreciating your now and all that has been.
I love that. And I love that you said that, because I've had people, okay, there's a couple of things. Okay. Let me go to this topic. So I want to understand, why am I still getting feedback? I want to understand this. Okay. So yesterday, a good friend of mine says, I took a fall, which she's a very physically fit person, unusual for her to fall. In the same, 14, 15 hours, another friend of mine said that she fell. And then I found out that my mother at 90 fell. She's fine. But so what is that? How does that happen? And why, what do I have to do with that?
You are the common denominator, and that there is truth in the law of threes, simply because very often it takes three of something to get your attention. So you are the common denominator in vibration. There are others around you that are your vibrational neighbors that are having simultaneously down the spiral experiences, not very down the spiral experiences, but down the spiral experiences. And very often one is something that's happening to somebody else. Two is something that's happening to a couple of people. Three, the law of three kicks in, and you suddenly start to realize that you are the center of that universe. This is something that you've manifested for you as much as they have manifested for them. All of these things are co-creative. And this does not mean that their falls were your fault. You did not create those in their experience. It was simply an aligning of vibration for similar things to happen all the time. A very simplistic example of this is David went with someone to buy a new car yesterday. And he suggested that this person look at this one brand of car. And throughout the day, while they were doing some other errands on their way to buy this car, they kept seeing the same car over and over and over again. A car that neither one of them ever paid attention to until they found out that there was 0% financing on this particular car. So suddenly this car is crossing their paths far more often. Is it? Are they attracting it? Are they just noticing it? It is all of the above. So that law of threes is there to finally get your attention. And it is your manifestation, just like numbers aligning and things like that. That is your manifestation to show you where you are vibrationally. So where you are vibrationally is in a place where your vibrational neighbors and you are swirling around in this energy of a little bit of fear, perhaps, that created an accident, but an accident in such a way that gets your attention, that perhaps more attention to safety, well-being, and simply high vibration is needed. When you work yourselves up, and we understand that we are speaking to ones who already understand this, but we are going to reiterate anyway. When you work yourselves up into high vibration, more times than not, the higher your vibration goes, every little dip down is going to give you almost instantaneous manifestation of something to get your attention, to let you know that you are in fact in lower vibration. That is a glorious manifestation, because in that manifestation, you have an instantaneous opportunity to raise your vibration back up and not spend much time down in negative, and have little things that are little blips on the radar cross your path for your expansion, rather than ignoring the fall and ignoring the diagnosis and ignoring the more serious issue until it gains so much momentum that it becomes a much bigger problem for you to solve.
Do you have time to answer like 2 more questions? I don't want David to go over. You do? Oh, I'm so glad. All right. All right. So a couple of questions. All right. So Danielle had asked, how does one channel the stream?
You all have an innate knowing coming to you. And when you have your vibration very high and you begin to trust it, you have something that you are all aware of that you call your intuition. When your vibration is high, your intuition is coming from the highest place. That is your stream. That is your version of this. When your vibration is low, your vibration from our energy is cut off. And somewhere below neutral, that vibration is most likely coming from your ego. You're human, and there's nothing wrong with that. Understand that there is fear laced with that and other lower vibrational things if you're not balancing it with your higher vibration intuition. Then when you go down beyond that, you can actually dip into what many of you refer to as dark energy. We guide you not to be so afraid of dark energy. Dark energy in the energetic realm, that consciousness is simply less than us. It is not evil. The things that happen on your planet that you judge as evil, and we understand why you do, that is human creation from that space. But the evil that you are perceiving is always human. You are never hearing of a story of someone truly being possessed by another being and creating atrocities. That is their own pinching themselves off from their highest vibration in such a way, so systematically, that they are operating most of the time as a very default low vibration. And in that default low vibration of fear and of believing that they have to perhaps harm others to empower themselves, which is always fear driven, they are holding themselves down there, and they are creating that which you consider evil. There is no evil energy that's going to possess you when you start connecting with the energetic realm. And if you are breathing and appreciating and loving you, you are not going to have access to that low vibration energy. When you are fearing, when you are consuming news and paying attention to conspiracy theories and allowing that stuff to take you down in vibration, you are lowering your vibration and you are becoming part of the problem, essentially. You can consume the information. You can see what's going on. You can understand that your collective consciousness questioning all that is absolutely causing things to bubble to the surface for you to address. But we are guiding you to address them from a higher vibration. Just like these obstacles that you create in your lives, and you raise your vibration, you solve the obstacle. And you all know this. You all have times that you're trying to do something and it just doesn't work, and it's frustrating you. You feel your vibration dropping. Perhaps you're uttering a few words that you don't normally utter, and you feel the anger, and you feel that burst of negative energy. You all know that if you step away from it and go do something that is more of a low thought activity and take the pressure off and return to it, you're going to solve it. Vibration is everything, and law of attraction is creating every moment that you are experiencing. And your vibration is very much dictating your point of attraction, always.
I love that. I've seen people where they feel like there's ins and outs to that. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they want to believe that, but sometimes they don't want to believe that. And it's always true, right? I know I'm saying what's true. Am I right? It's
you have all been taught that you are victims and that you have no control and it's not your fault. And that we understand the comfort that may bring in the moment, but ultimately it is robbing you of your creative power to change your default vibration. When you are told that you are a victim and you need to revel in your victimhood, and people need to rally around you because you're such a victim, you are only creating more things to be victimized by. And you have evidence of this all around you. Look at the groups of people who are victimized, and they focus on their victimhood and keep themselves in that perpetual state of being a victim. Whereas when you stop and say to yourselves, I created that. I don't know how I created that, but I created that. When you gain that ability to say that, it doesn't matter if you find out immediately how, eventually you will come to understand how you did. Very often it's simply tapping into the vibration of fear. And you are all taught fear from the day that you were born, even prior you were absorbing that. There's fear all around you. So certainly a young child needs nothing more than to absorb a little bit of fear to place themselves in the path of potential abuse. And when you understand that was a co-creative experience, that even as a small child you helped create vibrationally, you understand that there is a higher perspective of everything that's happened to you. And at your best, once again, you are raising your vibration and coming to terms with that and finding a path to forgiveness and even appreciation of it. Because it is very true. One of the best sayings that you have, and you have many, is that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if you remember that, you will come to understand that all of the negative things that have happened, when you release that victim vibration around it and claim ownership of it, even if it's something that you had no clue what you were creating at the time, and claim ownership of how it ultimately strengthened you and served your expansion, you've detuned that event so that it's no longer floating around in your lower negative vibration, waiting to trigger you down when polarity takes you down a bit. You've also claimed the power of that, and you will reverse lifelong cycles of negative. And it's a very, very, very powerful tool. David teaches this, and not many are ready for it, but those who are change their lives dramatically as a result of it.
I've got to keep turning this back on. I love that. Thank you so much for that. And I feel like there, and I don't know why I'm going to have to bring this up because this drawing, it's on my heart. So like some people, this is what's coming to me is for somebody, like get married multiple times or many relationships throughout their lives, and they keep recreating these same patterns for themselves. Even though they're positive, these people are way different than the other people that they were with. I kind of feel like this is a low vibrational question, but I feel like you're going to have a really high vibrational solution to it, because I know we're speaking to somebody. So can you speak about that for a couple of minutes?
Well, certainly it depends on how you view your relationships as human beings. First off, understanding that this idea of meeting another in a romantic scenario that is the one and only forever, obviously that is not your nature, because you are all vibrational beings and you're all on a path, some sort of awakening, regardless of what that looks like. If you take judgment out of it, you realize that you are all finding your paths to something, even if it is your early demise. And through this path, you are going to meet up with others who are your vibrational neighbor at the time, your vibrational match, if you will. And during that time period, you may have a very expansive experience. And then as independent strands of soul consciousness, you may discern a preference towards something else. One may decide to go way up here while the other wants to stay exactly where they are. And you have a disconnection. That is not a negative example of a relationship. That is an example of two eternal beings coming together in a physical plane at a time when they were vibrationally aligned and having an experience together and choosing to separate and go their separate ways when they were no longer the same vibration. We applaud that. This idea of together forever, no matter what, if you are holding yourself in a less than desired vibration to stay in something, then you're holding yourself in a less than desired vibration. You are creating your own reality. The other side of that, and we understand this was the crux of your true question, are people who find themselves in abusive relationships of some sort over and over again. The people that call themselves loser magnets. And you're exactly right. The more they focus on the loser and not themselves, the more they're going to be magnetic toward the next loser that's waiting for them. Of course, or the next abuser, or however you want to label that. You see cycles of people that place themselves in the path of abuse over and over and over again. And as long as they feel unworthy of one who is not that way with them, meaning their own opinion of themselves is down here, so their vibrational match is going to be someone who has the same low opinion of them. Even if in the beginning they don't see that, they are going to gravitate back to that place. their vibration is going to lower, and they're going to live in a lower vibrational experience. And they were going to wrap themselves eventually in that cocoon of victimhood, perhaps break free from it, but then they're going to continue in this example to sing the song of what a victim they've been and how horrible these people have been to them and how awful their life has been. And others are going to gather around them and tell them that it wasn't their fault, that they were a victim, that the other person was a monster. It was so terrible that this happened, and they're going to keep that victim vibe going. And the next person that they attract, more likely than not, from a vibrational perspective, which is everything, is going to be the next abuser until they release that idea of victimhood. And they look back and realize and say to themselves, I did not love me enough back then, and that's why I attracted what I attracted. I am now going to make my work loving me, not needing another to do that. Learn to love me and understand that when I, in this example, move my vibration up of me, I am then going to be in a better position to attract another who is the same vibration.
That was the best answer ever. Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. Wow. You guys must be loving this. Do we have time for one more question?
We do indeed.
Thank you. So, a little while ago, and I don't have the question in front of me because it went by, but someone was asking about, and thank you for the question, about our human bodies. And I'm just going to take it here. So like, as we evolve, are our human bodies changing? Is our DNA upgrading? Are changes happening throughout this awakening process?
Your physical bodies are ever evolving. In fact, with your high intelligence, notice that humans evolve faster physically than any other beings on your planet, essentially. And that is because of your intentionality is so greater than the other animals on your planet. So yes, your bodies are changing and evolving, and your bodies were highly intelligently designed to begin with. You are all essentially robots. And in this robotic state, you have parts that work very well and some that become obsolete. And the obsolete parts will be parts that you will no longer need. Your planet is changing, your planet is evolving, your human bodies are evolving, and your time has sped up on planet Earth. And this ascension that you have all created, that you're all very aware of, is absolutely going to create little shifts. But they're going to be things that you're not readily aware of until you look back and realize how you were just a short time ago. Because when you're in a current vibration, you begin to vibrate with that, and it seems like you've always been in it. In fact, at this point in your pandemic, you're starting to feel like you've always been in a state such as this, but you haven't. You used to live very differently than you do right now, but you're coming to terms with it more than ever because you've been in it long enough in linear time to where you've adjusted to this new reality. And there are things that you weren't doing a few months ago that you are now doing again, that you were told were going to be harmful to you a few months ago that you're now doing again. All of this is an example of the vibrational state that you all live in. And what we want to part with in this interaction is ensuring that if you are absorbing our teachings and you are hearing what we have to offer, that you understand that utopia and perfection and a high vibrational life are already present. It is your perception of what you are in that is going to deliver that. And this is not about you coming into the right amount of money, or the right looking body, or the right state of health, or the bigger bank account, or any of those things. Your shift to that higher vibration perspective is absolutely free to you, and something that you can do with internal work and gathering and absorbing teachings and paying attention to the ones that when you are in high vibration resonate with you, and moving on from the ones that do not serve you, and certainly doing the work to keep yourself in high vibration. And you do this by keeping yourselves in a perpetual state of self-love and appreciation of all that is. And when you're in that high vibrational state, everything is working out, everything is lining up. You find appreciation for what is. And when you're in that state, your physical reality begins to shift. And certainly your perception of your current reality is far more pleasant, if not invigorating, than it was when you were down in lower vibration much of the time. You all possess the ability to raise your default vibration. And you are all coming into your awareness of this. And you've been in this state for the past 50 or so years, and that has sped up and gained in momentum recently. And in your recent discovery of this, and you've discovered this recently globally because of your new ability to communicate. Speaking of new realities, think about how you are absorbing these teachings right now and think back 20, 30, 50 years, this would not have been possible. You would have not been able to absorb teachings such as this with this ease. And now you are. So you're all opening your minds up. You're all seeing things differently. You have all been somewhat enlightened just by this collective interaction. You have drawn all of this from us. You have all created this as much as David created this, and certainly as much as we created it. And here you are, a little more evolved and a little more knowledgeable from this one interaction. When you start stacking these up and make this your new way of being, you start seeing your world very differently. And then you begin to understand the difference of what you very often call 3D and 5D and things of this nature. Again, these are all human terms and human creation, but your perception of your world from a higher perspective is available to you now, and that is everything. You are not heading to some utopian existence where every being on your planet simply agrees with one another and you're just living in harmony. There would be no point in physical existence if that were true. You live that way, exist that way in non-physical. So your planet is not heading there, but we're not talking you out of the idea of expansion through creating solutions for. So address your problems of the world, address your problems in your life, but address them from a higher vibration of understanding that when you raise your vibration, you release fear and judgment and you trust your abundance. Trust is a very, very, very important word, because when you're trusting the universe to deliver everything to you that you are asking for in your high vibrational state, it will, because you are the universe. You are the creator. The universe is not delivering things to you that you do not ask for. You're attracting all of it. And when you understand that and you really make your work raising your vibration, living in a state of joy and a state of self-love, you've got the most to offer humanity. And certainly you are going to manifest a very, very, very satisfying experience for yourselves as human beings. With much love, that is all we have. I think you're muted.
I was saying thank you and everything, and nobody could even hear me. Anyway, just tell this. Well, I think this stream probably heard me anyway. I was saying thank you so much, and wow, David, that was amazing. I knew it was going to be important today. I did.
Yeah, no, I came out. I was just feeling the buzz when I came in here. So yeah,
I knew.
Always fun to be with you on here. It's always fun. Always fun. Good vibes. Good vibration from the audience too. I see.
Definitely, we have the best.
When I start tearing up after I channel, you know it was a good session. Look at me.
So many great question answers. Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah.
So excited.
Yes.
But I know you have things to do today, and so I'm going to ask you, before you leave, will you just let everybody know where to find you, show them your awesome book again?
Sure.
Whatever you
want. Be aware of the time, because I do have a 1:30. So my book is The Stream, Eternal Wisdom for a Better Life. You can get my book on Amazon. It's paperback and ebook form. And the spiritual practice is called Taya, T-Y-A. You can see my arm. For Trust Your Abundance. It meant so much to me, I tattooed it on my arm. So Taya is the practice, and you can find me at thestreamofdavid.com. And there's a Taya section in there. It's thestreamofdavid.com/Taya. My Facebook group is Taya Global Awakening. You can go join my Taya Facebook group. And we have a cool new thing. You can actually get my free guided meditation. It's 100% channeled. It's called Source Connect. So you meditate listening to the stream, what you just experienced, backed by acoustic music that is beautiful music, that the music by itself can take you on a higher vibration. But it's a meditation that is designed to raise your vibration and connect you with your version of the stream. It's my favorite meditation that we've done. And I've done a lot of guided meditations. So you can text AWAKEN, the word AWAKEN, to 760-284-7665.
Say that again. 760. I'm writing it down.
I'll put it in comments if you want to put it in comments.
That works.
So text the word AWAKEN.
Okay.
To 760-284-7665.
I got that. I typed.
So that will give you the free guided meditation, and then it puts you in this really cool thing that my team has created. That's a learning funnel. You hear about marketing funnels. We decided, okay, we'll have a marketing funnel. Everybody does, but we're going to make ours a learning funnel. So you can get in and start learning these teachings and absorbing things from the stream. And I will tell you a little secret that the marketing people don't want me to tell you. You can stay in the funnel indefinitely, whether you ever buy anything or not. There's cool things that you can buy. Certainly, bootcamp's great. But it was my intention to create a funnel that people could get into and still get teachings and things from indefinitely, no matter what they choose to do, in there. So I thought that this was a cool way to do a funnel. And Matt's marketing team in Sydney came up with this thing called the Stream Passage. And this is, and it's always being built out and added onto. So this will get you into the passage, which is really cool.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has anything like that. I think, well, let's do something different. Let's do the stream version of the funnel. Let's do a passage instead. Yeah.
Super cool. Can people? Are you still available for private readings
Yeah.
with the stream?
You can do a private reading with the stream. That's on my website. You can book that. Somebody tried to book it yesterday and said that there was a problem with the auto scheduler. You can message me on Facebook or email me at david@thestreamofdavid.com. If that's not working in an automated way for some reason, just let me know and you can do a stream session. We do an hour or we do a package of 3 one-hour sessions. And then we also have a new masterclass coming out about the TIA practice that will be free. You can take the masterclass, and then after the masterclass, you can see you get a free session. If you take the masterclass, you get a free session to see if bootcamp is a good thing for you or not. Because we have lots. If you haven't been in my YouTube channel, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of testimonials now from people whose lives have been changed with the TIA practice. It's a really cool thing. We have a great community over there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to the stream. And thank you for everyone who came and co-created with us. Thank you on YouTube and on Facebook as we are simulcast today. And it has been a pleasure. A pleasure again. And it's always a pleasure to work with you, David.
So. I appreciate it so much. Always fun to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.